What's going on, guys? Sal here. I'm back. Sally V back again. Earlier this week, I gave you my first look lineup at Week 5 for the NFL season. Draftkings, not doing FanDuel right now, but looking at Draftkings. And basically, I want to come back now that I've analyzed it a little bit better. I've taken in some research, looked at a bunch of different stats, heard a bunch of different podcasts, just listened around the league, kind of figure out where the chalk's going to go, figure out some contrarian plays, and also just look at value, especially with injuries coming out later in the week. Some guys that I'm higher up on now, maybe even putting a lock button on some of them. And basically, I'm just going to jump into my laptop right now, or maybe I'm already in my laptop, don't know how I'm going to edit this yet, we'll figure it out. But we're going to start on the quarterback page. Chalkiest plays this week are going to be, no doubt to me, Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan. People are going to be paying up for quarterback this week after I just keep hearing podcasts, people saying that that's where they want to go in chalk. All their listeners are going to go there in chalk. That's just how it goes. I still, for my first look, was Kirk Cousins. I still haven't heard that name. This Eagles and Vikings game right here with Kirk Cousins, this Eagles and Vikings game, it's going to be a sneaky shootout. I don't know what the total is. I should probably look that up right now. But I'm going to guess closer to 48. And this game is going to be a shootout. So the pace of the game is basically both teams throw the ball, right? I think Corey Clement's probably not going to play again. Darren Sproles isn't going to play again for the Eagles. They have Jay Ajayi, who's basically, he's not much, and he's dealing with a back injury. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. I mean, Wentz is back. They got all their weapons back. Alshon Jeffrey back. I don't think it's going to be a big defensive matchup. Right now, through air yards per pass attempt, the Vikings are giving up the third most in the league. The Eagles are right there, I think, around 6 or 7. They both play very slow-paced games because there's a lot of pass attempts, a lot of incompletions. You can see here with Kirk Cousins right here. I mean, he's just throwing 48, 55, 50. That's his last 3 games. Their defense isn't as good as it was last year, at least. Maybe they got some guys out, Everson Griffin, like I mentioned earlier. But I really don't think that this game is being as highly stacked. So we saw in my first look lineup, I went first off with Cousins, Diggs, and Thielen, and I like that. I like Cousins and Thielen a lot more than Cousins and Diggs alone, but I also like Rudolph in this game. I think running it back with somebody like Ertz is going to be great. We'll get there with the tight ends. But Cousins is a guy that I'm still high on this week, and I don't think he's going to be highly owned, maybe in that 7-5% range. I think you're going to see a lot of Ben Roethlisbergers, a lot of Matt Ryans. Phillip Rivers is going to be lower owned than he should just because Ben Roethlisberger and Matt Ryan are right there. It's an interesting in-between. Him being in between those two, I think you're going to see a lot of ownership come off because people either go Ryan or Big Ben. Scrolling through here, I think Cam Newton's still a sneaky play, but guys that I'm high on is just Kirk Cousins, whether you're going tournament or cash there. I think Cousins is good for tournaments. You're going to get leverage. I think if you're going cash, you can't go wrong with Big Ben. Big Ben over Matt Ryan in that case. Matt Ryan coming off, he's going to go on the road. Big Ben's great at home. Big Ben, I think, has more weapons than Matt Ryan does at his disposal, just especially in the middle of the field with McDonald, Juju, Jesse James as well. You have James Conner who can catch balls. Obviously, you have Antonio Brown. And he just has all these other guys like Ryan Switzer, and he has James Washington, just gadget-type players that are going to have their 4 or 5 targets a game as well and really have a place for Ben to throw the ball. But really where I want to look is I want to look at Cousins. That's where I'm really sticking with most of my stuff on this slate so far. But coming down here at 5,100, Russell Wilson, he's not going to be highly owned at all. He's not a guy that maybe I go for in cash unless you want to save a lot of money. If you play Russell Wilson here and then you go in and you play Doug Baldwin or you play Tyler Lockett, you're going to be able to play all the guys that you want. You'll be able to go up to Melvin Gordon, McCaffrey, maybe even Todd Gurley if you want to go that high, get Antonio Brown, Julio Jones. You can get like 3 of those guys in your lineup. Probably shuffle it around and get some other lower $7,000 players in there if you start with Russell Wilson and one of his low-owned wide receivers. I love Russell Wilson, definitely in tournaments. I mean, he's 5,100. You're going to get the other value in the lineup, and he's still a guy who could run for 50 yards in a score and throw for 300 yards in a score or 2. And especially against the Rams right now, whether you get Doug Baldwin in the slot, he's going to have a great game, and I'm kind of teasing what I'm going to get to. But the Rams, I mean, they got torn up last week. I know Peters was a little dinged up, but Aqib Talib's a big part of that defense, and he's out, right? So he's out. You got Russell Wilson, who, yeah, I know he hasn't gone over, 20 points yet. He's been 16, 15 points. I got 20 points week 1, okay. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to be very low owned, especially after his last 2 weeks, last week especially. I think he goes for 200-plus yards in the air, a touchdown, and then maybe a rushing touchdown, 50 yards. I'm playing him in tournaments. I can't see him being more than 2% owned. Maybe because of the price, he'll get bumped closer to 5, but either way, I think he's a great play. So for me, it's just 2 people right now that I'm really zoning in on as far as tournaments go. It's Kirk Cousins and it's Russell Wilson. And then if you're just going to go cash, I mean, Kirk Cousins is still a safe play, and Ben Roethlisberger is probably the chalkiest of all chalk. But if you're going to go cash 50-50s, you want that chalk. You want exposure to a game that's total is 58 points, maybe creeping up to 58.5 by the time kickoff is, because I mean, the offense in the NFL this year is just throw the ball, and when you're running the ball, you're basically throwing screen passes to the running backs, and they're going to get 10 to 15-yard chunks that way. That's what we're seeing a lot more. So I think Ben Roethlisberger's safe in cash. I think Philip Rivers is going to get overlooked, like I said, because of where he is. He's also a safe play in cash. So that's really my three cash-type guys: Kirk Cousins, Philip Rivers, and Big Ben. And then I'm looking more towards Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins for tournaments. Moving over quickly just to running backs, the biggest thing, and I mentioned this in the first look for Week 5, was I'm going to play Gio Bernard no matter what if Mixon's out. Well, the roles have completely reversed here. Gio Bernard didn't practice today, Friday, so it seems like he's going to be out. And Mixon's going to probably play. And we don't know what his workload is going to be like, but all we know is that they have Mark Walton backing him up. And they're only going to keep 2 running backs on the roster because that's just what they've been doing. And they don't like Mark Walton a whole lot. He had a terrible preseason. He doesn't look great, and they're giving him no opportunities in regular season, so they just want that extra running back there in case somebody gets hurt. Mixon, his injury wasn't even that bad. He just had to get a scope, something cleaned out of his knee. It sounds a lot worse than it was. He could have came back after 1 week if this was, say, the playoffs or bigger, not just the beginning of the season, but they needed him, or they didn't have a good backup in Giovanni Bernard. But really, it's just not a whole lot of pain or anything that he's dealing with at this point. He could have played last week. I think he's going to be fine, handle that 90% of the workload, if not more, like Gio was the last few weeks. I think he's the lock. So he's my number 1 lock on the slate. If Gio doesn't go and we don't hear no reports that Mixon's not going to take the full workload, if there's no reports, that's good news. I think he's taking the full workload because Mark Walton's definitely not getting it or even a split. So I think Joe Mixon's going to be my lock. I mean, Week 1 I played him in almost all my cash leagues. I have him in my season-long leagues, and he did great. He had a ton of catches. Week 2, he had a good game, too, against a great defense. He had a couple of targets, one that was dropped that probably would have went for like a 15-yard screen. And he came out a lot of plays, and he still got 21 carries, and he had a decent game, 4 yards a carry against the Ravens defense. So Mixon's my lock play. That's what I'm really liking at running back. This guy right here, and these are obviously, they're high up. You're gonna be like, oh, where's the value in this? McCaffrey's touching the ball 25 times like they said in the preseason. We're going to give him 25, 30 touches a game, and everyone's like, yeah, whatever. He's touching the ball. He's getting 27% of the targets out there. As you can see, 9, 15, 2. He's coming off the bye week. 2 is going to be the outlier there. It's going to be closer to 9 every single week. Greg Olsen, they said he might come back. I don't think he's going to be playing out there. Funchess is going to be locked up on the outside with Denoris Jenkins, and I think there's going to be a lot of balls just funneled to McCaffrey. Even if he's catching 12 passes, and that's crazy just to say like 12 like it's nothing, but even if he's catching just 12 passes in the game for like, what, 50 yards? Right there, there's your 17 points. That's like, I mean, that's a little bit of a high floor, but his floor is like 7 catches for 50 yards. His floor is 12 points just through the air. On the ground, it'll probably get you at least another 50 to 100. McCaffrey, I'm playing a lot, and Joe Mixon's going to be my lock if Joe Mixon is playing and Giovanni Bernard is not. Scrolling down a little more, I think this is just a no man's land right in here, really. I don't really want to touch the Atlanta running backs. I think Freeman could be a sneaky play. Don't really want to touch them at all. David Johnson, I talked in the first look why I like him. I still do like him. But there's a guy down here that I saw. Buck Allen got interesting when Alex Collins wasn't practicing, but now he's playing. Guy down here that I'm really just sticking on is going to be Aaron Jones still. So I mentioned him in the first take. 3 Packer receivers are out, and we'll get to those when we do the wide receivers quickly. But we have 3 Packers wide receivers out this week. Aaron Jones, I mean, he's starting to get the bulk of the carries, like I said in first look. More snaps. He outsnapped Jamal Williams and Ty Montgomery. But we have 3 Packers receivers not out. They're just out of practice. Randall Cobb was ruled out today. Devontae Adams is going to try and practice tomorrow. And Geronimo Allison's still in the concussion protocol. At best, we're going to get an injured Devontae Adams, it seems like, playing, or a below average or below healthy Devontae Adams playing Sunday for the Packers. I can see Montgomery being put in the slot a little bit more. Jimmy Graham's going to stay in the slot. We'll get to the wide receivers of value for the Packers soon, but I think Aaron Jones is going to be the guy in the backfield. I think Montgomery will be used more in the passing game in the slot, not in the backfield. Jamal Williams maybe comes in on passing downs a little bit more, but I think Aaron Jones is going to get at least 15 touches on the ground, probably 3-4 targets in the air. I think he's great at 4,300 value against a Detroit defense that's not great. So Aaron Jones is probably going to be, if 2 Packer receivers are out, Cobb's already out. If Geronimo Allison's out, he's probably going to be a cash game play for me as well. But he's definitely a great tournament flyer at 4,300. Cash game plays that I really like are going to be Joe Mixon and Christian McCaffrey. James Conner, I kind of gave him some hate just because of his stat line the other day when we were looking at this. But really, if you're looking at James Conner, it's great value against Atlanta. He's going to have a lot of catches. Cash, he's probably a lock, and he's a little bit cheaper than going up for the Julio and the Antonio Browns of the world. This is what you want to see right here. He's getting at least 5 targets a game, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. He'll probably get another 5 catches this week, 20, 30 yards at the minimum in the air, so that's an 8-point floor just from passing. And I can see him getting a goal line carry or 2 in this game. So that's it for running back. Like I said, McCaffrey, I love. He's putting in everything. If Mixon wasn't my number one lock of the week, if Bernard is out, it's going to be McCaffrey. Giovanni Bernard, that is. It's going to be McCaffrey just because of his usage is insane. He's basically the number one receiver on that team, and he's getting all the running back carries. And he's proven that he could run the ball because he went for 184 on almost 7 yards per carry in his last game. And I mean, his long was only 45. You take that out, and he still got 27 for $140. So it's still a great game. He's going to catch the ball. I can see him getting to the end zone. He's not going to go all year without a touchdown. So that probably comes this week against the Giants, who are 29th, I think. They're in the bottom 5 teams in the league against the run right now, which is surprising because it doesn't stand out when you just look at something like this where it says 20th. They're actually a lot worse than that. You have to look a little deeper. So I think I did this in the first look. I can't remember. Christian Kirk's a guy that I like. I know it's only a 40-point total in this game, but I could see him getting, especially if David Johnson gets active on the ground, opening up for Rosen a little bit. Rosen's been looking his way quite a bit. He's getting open in the passing game. I like these target shares. Christian Kirk's a guy that I'm playing in tournaments only, definitely not in cash. If we're going to go the cash route and you want a cheap route, I already mentioned Russell Wilson, and I'm sticking with him a lot of my first looks, and I just like him this week when I can dive into it. This isn't usually common, but this is what I like this week. I like these 7 targets here for Baldwin. I think he's just going to be in the slot, so he's going to actually get to avoid the outside where Marcus Peters is going to be. He's going to live in the slot. Last week he got 7 targets, and Russell only threw the ball 26 times. So he got 7 out of 26 of Russell's targets, and 4 of those targets, or 4 of those throws were throwaways for Russell. So really, if you're just looking at around 20 throwback or dropbacks that Russell's actually throwing the ball on, he got 7 of them. That's insane. That's 40% of the target share just in that 1 week. I think that's going to continue. I think in this game where it's going to be high scoring, Russell's going to have to throw the ball probably closer to 40 times, if not more, against the Rams to keep up with them. Could be a sneaky shootout. I like Doug Baldwin here. Tyler Lockett's not also a bad option. Baldwin's safer for cash, and also I think he'll be heavily owned as we look into it more from tournament perspectives because of his price. But I think for $5,000, you just need, 60, 70 yards out of him, 5, 6 catches, and he's going to pay that off. Probably get a touchdown as well. So I like that a lot there. Guy that's getting definitely overlooked. You guys know I love Thielen this week. I've already said it. Guy that's getting overlooked is this guy right here, Keenan Allen. Maybe even OBJ too. But Keenan Allen's going up against the Oakland Raiders this week. The Raiders give up a ton. It's just like that Minnesota and Philly game. It's like the Chargers and Oakland as well. Both of them really give up they're both fast-paced. They throw the ball a ton. Oakland's throwing the ball, I think, 7th most in the league this year. The Chargers are right there at 8 or 9. So basically there's going to be a lot of thrown balls in this game. He's still getting a lot of his targets. It's just hard when he's 7,800. But I think this could be the Keenan Allen week where he goes for 14 catches, $150, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, this could be that week, especially because he's getting overlooked by guys like Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, and Adam Thielen, all in that same exact range. Juju, all in that same exact range. I think Odell and Keenan Allen are going to be overlooked. But I think Keenan Allen from a cash perspective in tournament, I got to pay my rent. But I think Keenan Allen from a tournament perspective, I think he's going to be the 5 or under 5% week, so he could shift the slate on his own. So that's definitely got to be looking at as well. And then there's one more person that I wanted to point out here. Cooper Kupp, super reliable, cash and tournaments. Probably not going to play a lot of him. Tyler Boyd, I still think, even though he's the trendy, hot guy right now, I still think that Tyler Boyd, looking into it more and more, he's basically I don't know. He's reminding me of I know it's his second year, but OBJ's coming out party when OBJ had a bunch of good games in a row and people are just he's just a flash in the pan or whatever it is. I don't know. Tyler Boyd is the real deal out there. He's reminding me of Jarvis Landry, especially from his hands and his shiftiness, except now he's a little bigger than Jarvis Landry. He can score in the red zone, get red zone looks. Tyler Boyd I might consider playing in some cash lineups and also some tournament lineups, so I think he'll be lower owned. Devin Funchess is a sneaky play, but the play that I want to look at is from this Green Bay game here. MVS, I'm not going to say the whole name, Bland Scantlin. MVS, I think he ran 20-something routes last week, and that's when Geronimo Allison went down, but Cobb was also out, so he's seeing some targets. He got 3, caught the big one, close to 40, or was it 38-yard pass last week. If Geronimo Allison's out again, he's going to be the number 2 receiver out there. I mean, you could say Jimmy Graham will be if Adams does start. If Adams doesn't start, this guy's a lock. At 3,300, he's a complete lock. It's not even a question at that point. You're putting him into your lineups. But I think at this point right now, even if Allison's out, he's very viable for tournaments as well as cash because you're going to save right here with that 3,300. Not a huge sample size looking at him, but you have Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball in a dome where they're probably going to have to throw the ball a decent amount. They'll probably run the ball a lot because they have 3 guys in the backfield and Detroit's terrible against the run. But Detroit's going to put up points. You're probably going to have to throw the ball. You have Aaron Rodgers, so he's going to throw the ball at least 35 times, you would imagine. Probably closer to 40 if they get down in this game. It's a pick 'em right now. I think the line is basically -1. Green Bay, but it's basically a toss-up. I think he might see like 7 targets this week, and if you're getting 7 targets from Aaron Rodgers and you're a decently talented receiver, which the Packers believe he is, I don't see why you can't get 50 yards, 4 catches, maybe a score, and at that point, 3,300, that's all you can really ask. It's all upside from there. So he's definitely a guy I'm going to look out for. If Geronimo Allison, it doesn't seem like he's going to play with his concussion. I keep checking my phone to see if I get any updates on that. I just see that John Ross is out this week. John Dotson not practicing. I'm just reading these other things. Oh, here we go. Giovanni Bernard not expected to play. There you go. 20 minutes ago, I got Fantasy Labs is the notifications that I get from Twitter. They're great. They're up to date. So Giovanni Bernard's out. We're locking in Joe Mixon no matter what. I'm going to lock him into the point where I'm going to literally put him in this lineup right now because you should build all your lineups around Joe Mixon this week. He's going to get 90% of the touches unless we hear a report otherwise. He can catch the ball, probably 5 catches around there. He's playing Miami, who's not that great against the run. All the goal line carries, all the upside in the world. He's literally this exact same guy, Christian McCaffrey, except $1,100 cheaper, and he probably has a better chance at scoring because he's a bigger back near the red zone. But he's literally this exact same guy. Obviously, McCaffrey, the better receiver, maybe one of the best, if not the best, pass-catching receiver we've seen in the past 20, 25 years out of the backfield. But these guys honestly should be locks for you. That's how I'm building all my lineups. It's really around these guys. I'll fade the Melvin Gordon, the Todd Gurley's of the world. But yeah, so at receiver, I mean, it's really just Keenan Allen's definitely sneaky this week at low ownership. Thielen's going to be in a lot of my lineups. This will probably be the build for a lot of it with Kirk Cousins up there if I can fit it all. Juju's going to be a great option. I think coming off of Antonio Brown to Juju is going to be very high owned at Juju, so I think Antonio Brown might be a little leverage this week for a guy who could get a 50 burger in a week and just, if you don't have him, you're going to lose. But Doug Baldwin's a guy that I also like. We already went over that, and I really like if we get the notification that Allison is out as well. I like that MVS for the Green Bay Packers. Somebody else who's interesting is Marvin Jones. He's at 4,700. He's the talk of the town right now. Why is he so cheap? He kills the Packers. Well, Kenny Golladay wasn't there the other years that he killed the Packers. I think this is overhyped. I think he's going to be a highly owned player, probably around the 15% range. And at that point in tournaments, I don't want to touch it. In cash, it's not a bad bet if you're trying to save money, but I don't want to touch it at this point in tournaments. I know he's definitely under-owned or underpriced. He should probably be around 5,200 in my opinion, just because he's getting constant targets and a good offense going up against the Packers where he's historically been great. But like I said, they didn't have Kenny Golladay then. This Packers secondary is a little bit better now, especially since they just signed Breland. They have now 5 corners with Kevin King coming back that are all viable, and they're all great. So that secondary should be great this week against them. I'm fading Marvin Jones. I'll let the field put 20% on him. If I lose, I lose then. But let's just go into tight ends right now, and then we can wrap this thing up. Looking at tight ends this week, I love this week to pay up. When I said I like Kirk Cousins, I like the Vikings wide receivers. I even like Kevin Rudolph in that game. I'm going to stack that game a lot, and I'm going to run it back with Zach Ertz. Maybe Nelson Aguilar. I don't want to touch Jeffrey. Definitely not touching any of the running backs in Philadelphia. But I want to run it back with Zach Ertz. I know he's very expensive, top owned right now, but I think this is the week a lot of people are going to be going for lower value. And really, it's a crapshoot at tight end this week. Greg Olsen, sneaky if he plays. They said he's out right here. He's been ruled out for Sunday's game. I thought that there would be a comeback. I saw something. Maybe that's not updated. Travis Kelce, I think he's very sneaky. This is going to be your lowest Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce stack percentage week ever. I'm going to play one of those in probably the Millie Maker or the 500-yard slant, which is what I'm building the lineup for right now. One of those Chiefs stacks, because basically that's a high total game right now. You know, Federnet's out, so Bortles is going to throw the ball more. He's probably going to put up at least 20 points on that Chiefs defense because it's not terrible. It's a lot better than a lot of people are saying, but it's also not great, right? And you know, Patrick Mahomes is a special quarterback. I know that you got Jalen Ramsey out there. I know you got this Jags defense, Glass Campbell, whoever's rushing the passer. But I think Patrick Mahomes is a special quarterback. I think Tyreek Hill, this is the week that he's going to be 5% or less owned, and I think he's going to go off. You can't predict the punt return, but he's been due for that. I mean, what, 4 weeks? It's crazy because he hasn't had one in 4 weeks. But he can go off at any point. He's not going to be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey. Travis Kelce is going to be very low owned, especially at this $6,000 price. He's never going to be below like 6,700 again this year with Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback. Sneaky to do a stack there with him, Mahomes, and Tyreek Hill this week, or Sammy Watkins if he plays. I love going high at tight end this week. I'm going to try to as much as possible. Basically, when I was first look, I was scraping the 2,800 range, 3,000 range. There's nothing there. If you want to just play the chalk and cash, it's Vance McDonald. Vance McDonald, if you're going to play him in a tournament, he's probably going to be the most owned player in the entire tournament. Outside of maybe Big Ben and James Conner, he's probably going to be the most owned player. And that's just because he's a cheap tight end in the 58-point total game. And you got a guy like Austin Hooper on the other hand who's just peaks and valleys, and his peaks are only when he scores touchdowns. You don't want to rely on guys who only score touchdowns. especially if you're playing cash. If you're playing tournaments, then sure, go for it. 5 targets isn't anything to brag about, but he's breaking tackles when he gets those targets. His average depth of target is double digits. It's down the field. That's what you want to see. So he's the guy. He's the guy if you just want to go chalk with it. Tight ends this week, I think, is pretty straightforward, though. I'm sticking to these main top 2 guys right here. I might come down to Jimmy Graham if all 3 wide receivers are out for the Packers. If Devontae Adams is in there, last week Jimmy Graham was terrible. I'm a Packers fan. I played him. He had 10 yards and a touchdown after the first quarter of the game. And basically after that, he dropped 2 passes, wasn't running the right routes, should have had another touchdown. He was just awful. Aaron Rodgers has already said that he needs more Jimmy Graham, though. So I would play Jimmy Graham this week if those Packers wide receivers are indeed out. So Jimmy Graham, I'm looking at these top 2 guys. If you're trying to go cheaper, definitely in that 3,700 Vance McDonald route. What I think is interesting, Tyler Eifert being out, something to keep an eye on, are these guys priced the exact same. If you want to roll a dice in a tournament, you're going to play CJ this year. I know that Croft in the past has been good with Eifert out, but this year it's just been CJ, and it's nothing to brag about, right? He's getting 4 2 targets, 1 target. I would wait and see this week. If Croft blows up, then we kind of missed out on him, but you can play him next week in cash. But once you get down here, I don't like anything. I like Ian Thomas a lot. I think he's going to slowly start to get more targets. I think they just had their bye. They might have scripted to get him the ball more. He's super athletic, good hands. But like I said, if Greg Olsen comes back, this might be the last week you have it playing him if Olsen's out. But I really think this is McCaffrey crush week. So that's really it at tight end. It's pretty straightforward. Pay up or go Graham if the Green Bay receivers are out. If you want to go down, you can go Vance McDonald, maybe David Njoku, but not going to get too deep into that. Flex, that's up to you. Flex is a tricky spot. DraftKings, you want to win the flex. People just throw a guy in there. Word of advice for you, if you're still watching this video right now, hit it with a thumbs up if you're this far. But if you're still watching this video right now, in the flex, you want to put guys that are in that 4 o'clock slate, if possible. If you like any guy and you're debating on if you want to play them or not, put them in the 4 o'clock slate. Because once the 1 o'clock games go, you can see where you are in tournaments or cash, and then you can say, okay, do I want to play it safe and keep this guy that I really like this floor, basically, and he was going to get a lot of targets, or do I need to basically get a guy to score me 30 points right now, and I need a guy who's going to explode for a Deshaun Jackson, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns on 3 catches type game. So you can do that late swap, it's called. You just put a guy in the flex. Also, it's very interesting because pass catching running backs are very popular this year, so I'm going with them in the flex every single time. I want my running backs to have over 60 touches, closer to 70, 80 touches a game. So that's about 25 touches a game for them. That's what I want out of my running backs, as opposed to you would do in the past with a receiver. When running backs weren't catching the ball as much, you just throw a receiver in there who's going to get 10 targets, 5 easy catches, and maybe 70 yards, and that was a nice floor for you because it would outgain getting a running back to rush for you for 90 yards. But now I like go pass running backs here, or pass catching running backs. I like doing double tight ends sometimes. There's a little bit upside in the data over the past years in that. But just pass catching running backs here, especially if they're playing that 4 o'clock slate. So if I have these 2 guys here, for example, maybe I put David Johnson in my flex here, and then I can maybe spend up at other positions. But David Johnson's playing the 4 o'clock slate. So I just did that right now. If I throw David Johnson in here, he's going to be in my flex. He's playing the 4 o'clock slate, so I can switch him out late. So say I know a ton of people are going to be playing David Johnson, 15% of the field, and I'm behind, right? I need some big splash to happen. Maybe then you go Christian Kirk if you want to stay in the same game. Not a lot of people are going to own him, and if he blows up, you're going to pass them. Whereas if you have David Johnson and everybody above you has David Johnson, you're not going to be able to pass them. You're not going to be able to place in the money if that's what you're hoping to do. So that's just something to consider. Defenses, honestly, I still haven't looked too deep into this. Defenses, I kind of just see what's left on my salary. I don't like to play $2,000 or $2,100 defenses, but anything above that is pretty viable. This week, I said it earlier, I still like the Bills. They're in most of my lineups. I might put some leverage against them in some tournaments, try and get some other teams, pay up maybe in cash. But the Bills are the team. I mean, at home, they play great. I watched them in person hold Aaron Rodgers to his worst game ever at home. The Bills, they're just a different team at home. They're playing Tennessee, who's been coming out with Corey Davis and Taylor, who's another wide receiver that I didn't mention, who I probably should have. Tyrod Taylor. He, in the preseason, took a bubble screen to the house. He played great last year. Not Tyrod, Taiwan. But not to get too deep into it, I think at $4,000, him and Mohamed Sanu, I think Sanu is going to be owned more, but Sanu has a lot lower ceiling, safer floor. But Taylor, I think he might even have that same ceiling or same floor, but a way better ceiling. He can take a screen to the house. He can take any pass to the house. His speed is electrifying across from Corey Davis, who I think a lot more people are going to play this week. I don't want anything to do with him in Buffalo. In the next few weeks, I'll look at him, but at $4,000, if you're looking for a dart play with some upside or a lot of upside, Tyrod Taylor's not a bad bet. But in Buffalo, I think they shut teams down. I don't think that defense is as bad as it seems. They held the Packers to 22 points all game. Aaron Rodgers holding them to 22 points. They shut the Vikings down. I don't think the defense is that bad out there. I think the Chargers took advantage of them, and then week 1 they got blown out the water. So I think since then they've been a lot better, and they're not what that week 1 game looked like. But that's what I'm looking at right now. I mean, just to recap it, Joe Mixon and CJ McCaffrey, they're my locks this week. I think both are going to be overlooked because people love to pay up at running back. I do too. Gurley's just out of my price range. Gordon's is going to be a smash mouth game. I mean, I'm going to play a lot of Gordon in some leagues instead of David Johnson. This is the stack that I'm going to try and go for, this stack right here with these 3 running backs if I can. Probably go, if I just had to build out a lineup quickly, I really don't know what just to kind of give you where my brain's at this late in the week, see how it compares to earlier in the week. But if I had to just build out a lineup for you guys, I would do something like this. I really want to go high at tight end, but say that I can't right now. We'll see if I can come back up there. David Johnson, that leaves me 7,100. That's not bad. Emmanuel Sanders is interesting. He's going up against a very bad corner on the Jets in the slot. Don't want to touch him. Stephon Diggs. We need a stack somehow, right? So that might be the lineup right there. So this is a lineup that I would probably run out there. And I want to play Thielen, but if I'm going to play these 3 running backs, then I'm not going to be able to play Thielen. But if you do want to play Thielen in that instance, and I'm probably going to play around with this more when I get off air, but just to close up this stream real quick, if you do want to play Thielen, you can come down to Vance McDonald, and then maybe you come down over here too. I'm not positive, but if you do want to play Thielen, that's the route you might take. Aaron Jones is another low guy that you can get into right there. But I think this is actually a really safe lineup. Maybe I'll come back and I'll review my first take lineup, and I'll also review this lineup that we're looking at right here. All right, and then the flex I had David Johnson, and we were able to have David Johnson, and we had, yep. So this might be a lineup, but you know what? On air right here, I'm just going to enter it, $9 into this $500 slant league, and you're in. All right, Kirk Cousins, CJ Mixon, I think these guys are great. Maybe 20 catches combined. Guys here at wide receiver, Christian Kirk's obviously the punt play. Jimmy Graham's safe if those Packers receivers are out. I think David Johnson's too cheap right now. He's going to blow through that projection based on his price. Bills defense not bad at home. Kirk Cousins is going to throw the ball 50 times, probably have 300 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns. All right, guys, that's it for me. We're going to review these lineups. I'll come back maybe Sunday and look at the Sunday night slate, and then at the latest Monday, I'll review the lineups. I'll get my other first look out there in that same video. Look at this lineup that we just did, see how it did, and then we'll look at the first look. So this is kind of just a fly how I'm thinking late in the week with what type of guys that I'm high on. And these are really the guys that I'm high on, but there's like 20 to 40 guys that I look at each week, probably closer to 30 on average, that I like to play, and I get them in all different lineups, and I make sure that I have a lot of leverage, but I'm lowering risk without lowering as much profit, basically. But these are definitely guys that are in that field if I'm putting them out here on this video like this. But all right, guys, good luck this weekend. If you made it this far, drop in the comments any questions that you have in season long that you're debating with or in daily fantasy. Or if you just want to chat about it, you can DM me on my social medias below. My name's Sal Vetri. Have a good night, everybody. Peace.